one question. Council spent a long time trying to explain to us that the liner, the double liner that she spoke of for at length was sound, but Recology has told us themselves that all liners leak, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Let's hold our pauses so we can move along with this. Mr. Nolan, I didn't call you up. Can you sit down? Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners and members of the public. I have some concerns with what's being done today. I've spoken about it in other contexts over the past 3 days, but as I understand it, all you 5 gentlemen are individually named in the federal lawsuit. And to that extent, I believe you have a personal monetary interest. Under the law, the expression would be a pecuniary interest. And I really have some difficulty seeing that you're going to possibly take any action on the settlement while you were still individually named. And I think it would have been a better procedure that you had been dismissed in your individual capacity so that the ethics law that I think you're about to violate won't result in a complaint against you. Because under NRS 281A 420 3B, it states a public officer shall not vote upon a matter with respect to which the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in the public officer's situation would be materially affected by the public officer's pecuniary interest. So I really do think that you're opening yourselves up to some issues here, and as a condition preceding to acting on this vote, you really need to be separated from your individual liability. I do know, just anecdotally, a number of you have spoken about your concerns about being sued. You speak about it a lot, Mike, about the county, but so I think you really need to do that and go back to Recology and get yourselves released individually so that you can make a decision that would be reasonable and objective without your personal financial interest being at risk. Lawyers can differ all day long about reasonable minds differing. And this is my opinion, and I'm sharing it with you because I believe if you do vote even for or against it, you shouldn't be. Another issue is that I think that the current state of the law, either under the initiative that was passed by the citizens or the ordinance that it replaced, had in its terms that the terms, conditions, and fees were to be established by the board and council as a unilateral act of governmental power. Under this term, proposed settlement, you were given 50% of that, or jointly deciding the terms, conditions, and fees with Jungo, which I believe is a de facto amendment to the ordinance, and I think it's probably an open meetings violation, and other issues come to mind. I haven't spent much time looking at it. But the current law reads that, and this is the document that Kent Maher adopted, that he wrote, solid waste from outside the district may be deposited at the landfill or other site in the district with the recommendation of the landfill committee and approval of the board and council upon such terms, conditions, and fees established by the board and council. Now, you're going to be establishing the terms, conditions, and fees pursuant to a commercially reasonable contract, post-agreement that you all negotiate with Jungo. And you shall do that under terms 5. So I think that creates some additional issues that probably haven't been necessarily briefed to all its fullness. The other thing, Mike, when you talk about the Supreme Court is going to decide this, if you're referring to the United States Supreme Court, which I suspect you would be talking about, well, you need to know that this is not the kind of a case that the United States Supreme Court would typically look at. They take about 60 cases a year. But as regards guarantees, no lawyer can ever guarantee anybody. But I do know that if you all were testifying in front of a jury in a lawsuit, and you said to that jury that you did what you did because you felt in your heart it was the right thing to do and you denied the extension, you will win that. Now, I know it's difficult when you're under the gun, when somebody is tough and smart and bright and has the resources like McDonald, Milano, and Jungo, and they're huffing and puffing and they're blowing your house down. But Mr. Francois, Commissioner Francois is right. The citizens will stand behind you as you engage in a fight. And, you know, I just want you to know that. I don't think we're fair-weather friends. You asking questions when you open up your checkbook. I personally have, I've done that already. And I will continue to do it. So I just ask you to reject this settlement proposal. And if you have questions in connection with my comments.
So in the case, do you think it's a slam dunk case for the county?
I've litigated for 30 years. Very rarely do I use the term slam dunk in any case. Okay.
But I mean, just what do you...
I know. They've alleged. First of all, let's talk about another thing. On the issue of damages. On the issue of damages. Let's assume they win and they get to open up the landfill. There's no damages. Most damages they have is legal fees. You build into the agreement going forward the administrative cost, service, attorney's fees over 95 years. You have to be resourceful to deal with a clever opponent. So if they win, they get the landfill and they're in business. If they lose, it's because you operated correctly by denying the extension. And you get your attorney's fees for this fakakta lawsuit they brought against you. So you have liability in civil lawsuits and then damages. Okay, let's assume you go to a jury and Mr. Frankovich and Ms. Lennon prove that you operated improperly. Well, they may send it back. But they may say, you know what, you don't have to be perfect commissioners, you just have to be reasonable commissioners. And under the circumstances, you acted reasonably, and the federal court is not going to make its decision that you all had the right to do, and you made it. So, yeah, there were some issues. The record was crazy. You got rotten counsel, rotten legal advice, which creates issues.
Let's not go there.
So, in terms of guarantee, there are no guarantees. And I would never say that there would be guarantees.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you respond to the point that we would be putting ourselves in the spot if we didn't answer today, or if we vote today?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you guys have the right to vote today. This is a lawsuit in which the county, so you guys are representatives of the county. You're also sued in your representative capacities. As commissioners, you have the right to resolve the case in that particular area as well. And you're also sued individually. You have the right to resolve this case on those grounds as well. And there are no ethical violations or redress of ethical violations for you guys in acting to resolve this case today. So that's my response to that. I don't see there's any impediment at all for you to resolve the case on behalf of the county, on behalf of yourselves as representative, in your representative capacity, or in your individual capacity either. I understand Mr. Dolan's argument that you have the ability under the existing statutes and the state of Nevada to resolve the case today in concert with the terms that have been proposed.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I understand the argument, and it appears like there has some appeal when you first listen to it, but on the other hand, this is your lawsuit, both individually as well as in the representative capacity, and as such, you, in my view, have a right to vote.
Okay. You guys have any other questions on that issue? Okay, we'll move forward. What's the next hand I saw?
My name is Vicki Brock. I'm a citizen of Winnemucca. I moved here from Ohio as a choice. I love this community. I want to be here the rest of my life. I have several questions. One deals with the nice little liner. Okay, this is a seismic zone. Okay? I pay considerable amount of money for insurance on my house so that it's insured for earthquake. And if that earthquake would occur, and it will at some point, what is it going to do to the land? And what is it then going to do, not just to our aquifer, but to downstream aquifers? Okay, what is it going to do to Loveland? Okay, what is it going to do to Lyon County? As I look at what's on the screen, I have several questions about what is there. It is so vague that it bothers me. One, if I look at 3 and 4, is the amount in 4 tied to 3? And if we're looking at 5 years, that's $10,000 a year, and I guarantee you're not going to get that done for that price. If I look at the last item, which is not shown on there, okay, you're going to negotiate this fee. What is that fee? I want to know that up front, okay? And more importantly, I want to know how much of that fee we're going to get in this community. For example, is the state going to take 65% and we're only going to get 35%? And if that's the case, it's not worth it if it's only $1 a ton, what we've heard. And if that's all that they're going to give us, I have some real problems with that, as do a lot of the other people in the community. So as you look at whether you're going to sign this agreement, what other kinds of toxics are in there? Yeah, you took out asbestos. Yeah, they took out sewage. But what other toxics are going to be in that? Because the waste that they're going to bring here is non-recyclable, that they're not going to put in their communities, but they're going to put it in ours. And those are the questions that I have, and that I would ask that you consider before you sign something as vague as what we see on that screen. Thank you very much.
We might be able to answer a couple of these questions. I think 3
Okay.
and 4 are separate. They're separate.
Mhm.
That's correct. That's correct. So under 3, the costs associated with the monitoring of these wells, these groundwater wells, that's separate and apart from paragraph 4, which funds $50,000 is to have an independent engineering consultant review what's been submitted to the state of Nevada for a solid waste permit by Recology. So the idea is to hire someone to review that to make sure there are no infirmities in that application and there are no other environmental concerns that need to be addressed. Also, if this thing was to get permitted and it was to actually start operation, then paragraph 3 is an independent obligation, which would require them to fund independently an engineering consultant to monitor these groundwater wells to determine whether or not there's been any penetration to the liners or migrating of any groundwater. That is an independent obligation which will be funded separately. And again, it will be an independent engineer hired by the county to do that work. That's that. And I should say with respect to paragraph 5 that the host agreement is a matter which will come before this board for a public hearing before it's approved. So when that host agreement is negotiated, it will come before the board. The public will have input on that, and that's the way that will work. So there'll be a hearing. It has not come before the board yet. It's never been presented to the board for their consideration. That's what will happen down the road.
And that, and what he's talking about, that one that's been floating around, we never did see.
Yeah.
We didn't read anything on that.
I have one last little comment I'll make. They've said, it's against the law for something to escape in the wind. It's against the law for it to escape in the water supply. Every March, we all know what kind of wind we have here. Okay, we have hurricane force winds. And just to attest to how bad that wind is, we have a chain link fence along a half acre of our west property line. That dump is going to be west of us. 2 years ago, it bent the fence to the ground. It is made with corner posts all the way across, and it literally bent that fence to the ground. Last year, we tore the fence off the posts so that it wouldn't do the same thing again. So how is it going to keep in the dump, you know, and what's gonna be the fine? And is it gonna be worth the fine when it does escape the dump?